So do you think adults can still, even though they haven't sung maybe for 15, 20 years, are they able to sing? Well, welcome to Stagebound. And my name is Sylvia Lee. And today I've got the honor to talk to Professor Demorest from Chicago. And he's a researcher of singing, which is very interesting, and a professor in music education at the Northwestern University in Illinois. And the interesting thing is, like, also my parents-in-law actually went to that university. So I think so, at least. So there's like a personal connection to your university as well. And so he's the go-to professor or the go-to researcher to the question, can I learn to sing, right? That's at least how I found you on the internet. That was really interesting because you, a lot of articles which were citing actually your research different kind of articles were circling on the internet, like on Facebook and Twitter. And so this is how I found out about you. And that was, I thought it was great that actually there is research about that topic, because it's such an important topic and such an emotional topic for a lot of people. And your most recent research is about singing accuracy, and which is like important for us because, like, of course, singing in tune is the thing that makes us feel that we can sing, I think.
Right. I think that when people have difficulty matching pitch or singing in tune, that leads to some real feelings of nervousness or inadequacy. And so helping children to master that skill early on is something that I like to, I'm interested in pursuing and improving.
So how did you get into that research topic?
Well, I'm a singer by training and a choral director. And as a school choir teacher, one of the biggest problems that we have, one of the biggest challenges that we have are children who come to us who really want to sing, but who have a lot of difficulty matching pitch. And you, as a teacher, you want to help them, but you also don't want to single them out. You don't want them to feel like they've been, that they're sort of on the spot in any way. And so developing techniques to deal with that, I found as a teacher, was very difficult. And when I looked into how do I help these kids, there really wasn't that much out there about how to do it. So I became interested in looking at it from a research standpoint, both in terms of understanding what the problems might be. That is, not everybody who has difficulty singing has the same problem, right? There are different reasons why people have difficulty. So trying to better understand what some of those problems are. And, what I hope is eventually, if we can understand better what the different problems are, we can develop different strategies as teachers for improving.
But you are researching mostly for kids, or are you also including teenagers and adults as well?
Right. Well, the study that got so much attention recently compared 5-year-olds and I think it was 10-year-olds to adults, all doing very much the same tasks, the same singing tasks. And what we found was that from age 5 to age 10 or 11, so really in our school system from kindergarten to grade 6, that the kids showed a lot of improvement in accuracy. But when you compared those 6th graders to adults, the accuracy went back down. So adults actually got, if they were the same as our 6th graders when they were younger, they actually got worse at singing as they got older. And our interpretation of that, one possible interpretation of that, is once people stop receiving music instruction or opportunities to sing, even if they were accurate at some point in their development, they get less accurate over time because they're not practicing. And this is an unusual aspect of people's view culturally of singing. we don't think of singing as something that you practice and get better at. We think of it as a talent that you're either given or not given. And so that was the main question we raised with our research, is that maybe we need to be looking at singing not as something you either have or don't have, but as something that you can develop with practice and just, you know, over time with increased attention and trials and that sort of thing. And to that end, trying to find opportunities for adults and children to sing informally, to sing for fun, to not worry about how good a singer they are, just to get together and sing, is something that we're interested in exploring the potential of that for developing. The big hole in the research right now, you mentioned teenagers. The big hole in the research right now, I've done a couple of studies with kids ages like 12 to 16, only 2 studies, mostly with just boys. But what we really don't have information on what happens when somebody in the US, they get music instruction up through age 10 or 11 as a mandatory part of school. After that, it's elective. And most of the students that we have don't go on to music. Only about a third of them do. So what happens to those other 2/3? What happens to their singing ability when they stop? And this is something that's part of our next study. We want to look over time, what happens to somebody when they could sing this well at age 11? What do they look like at age 13 and 15 and 17 if they continued instruction in music versus if they stopped instruction in music? And so we're really interested to see if we can see where, if there is a decline, where does it happen and why?
But the interesting thing is also that, because you are saying there is no tone deafness, right? Just like a very small amount of people really have this, what we call tone deafness. But a lot of my students, or like people who are watching the channel, they write emails saying, I just can't sing. I have never been able to sing. I was being told what you said at the beginning. I should stop singing, which is like the worst, you know, or give a triangle, like give something, you know, but just don't open your mouth. And then when they are adults, they have the really the opinion about that they can't sing. So do you think adults can still, even though they haven't sung maybe for 15, 20 years, are they able to sing?
I believe yes. So there's a number of things in there. The first is we use the term tone deaf. People use that to describe somebody who can't sing accurately. But true tone deafness is the inability to hear and remember pitch information accurately. And that's what's very, very rare. It's really unusual. There's a small percentage of the population that really cannot hear accurately when a pitch goes up or down, even over a wider interval. But most people can do that. Where they have difficulty, and why they call themselves tone deaf, is they can't translate what they hear into an accurate reproduction very well. And again, there are a number of reasons for that. But because we have this cultural view of singing as a talent, instead of, when you encounter a child who's having difficulty, instead of telling them not to sing, what they need to be doing is singing more. Right? It would be as if you encountered a beginner on piano and you said, oh, you don't play the piano very well, you should stop. We don't do that. We say you should take lessons, you should practice. So I think that's the view we need to have of singing. And another reason I got interested in this is, in my previous position, I was conducting a men's glee club. And I can't tell you how many men decided when they got to college. They said, I've never sung in a choir before, but I really want to try it. And so I encountered all these guys who, loved singing, but really had very little experience, and some of them had some real difficulty. And I saw time and time again that as they participated in this group, they got better and better.
So what did you do to support that?
I honestly, not much. I just let them sing. It really was more about opportunity and repetition. I mean, I would work with guys sometimes individually if they came to me and were really having difficulty. But I found that more often than not, it was just the opportunity to sing was really what they needed.
So basically those choirs you're also talking about in your research, those can't sing choirs, They are
Yeah.
springing up as well here in Germany. In Hamburg, we actually have every week an opportunity. It's called Hamburg Singing, and it's a big band, and people come there to sing together. It's like 500 people are coming together.
Wow. Well,
Yeah.
see, so I would like to. This is something that I'm interested in that I haven't. There's a lot of. There was even a TV show, I guess, in England where they did this, and there's been a lot of talk about this, but I don't think anybody's really studied it from the standpoint of, well, what happens from beginning to end, and do people really get any better, or do they just have fun, or what is it? And I'm really curious about it. I mean, really, we probably should call them can sing choirs instead of can't sing choirs, since that's sort of the point, right? But yeah, that's something I'm interested in possibly doing here on campus, is starting one in our area because we don't have one, but really exploring with the people both their perceptions of themselves as singers, but also what kind of improvement actually is happening over time.
Like basically, you mentioned before that the myth of talent in singing. Where do you think is that coming from?
And I think one of the challenges in our culture, for whatever reason, we have decided that singers are the small group of people who are really, really good. So Pavarotti is a singer, Beyonce is a singer, nobody else is a singer. And so we have a terminology problem, I think. If we use the term singer to only mean those people, then the rest of us are what are we? If we like to sing but we're not Beyonce, what am I? Where do I fit in? And so and in school, I think the people who don't get into choir are seen as not. If you're in choir, I'm a singer. If you're not, you're a non-singer. And I think that's really problematic. And you read about, I mean, in a lot of cultures where singing is a part of what people do in public gatherings and things like that, you don't see that two group thing, like I'm either a singer or a non-singer. So there's definitely a cultural identity piece there. And I don't know exactly how to change that, but I'm interested in, I think these things like these group singing gatherings, making singing more a part of the culture. I think the United States may be one of the most difficult places to change this. We don't seem to have, I mean, at least Germany historically and England historically had group singing, sort of as a part of the culture in a bar, out on the town kind of thing. And I think in the U.S. even that didn't really happen in the same way. So I don't think we have that in our background in the same way. So it's a big challenge. I think right now for me, it's making sure that people who feel like they can't sing and that they can never get better at, to try to get the message out to them. One of the things that we're working on is, and maybe we should get your help with this, because you're already doing this, I think, a little bit ahead of us in terms of blogging and YouTube, which is new to me. I'm not very big on that, but I want, we're putting together, right now we're calling it the Can't Sing blog, but I want a better name because I don't like saying that, right? But what I really want is, I want people to send me their stories of when they decided they couldn't sing and what the circumstances were, so I can kind of better understand what the influences are. And so I once we get that set up, I'll send you a link. I don't know if you have any better ideas for a name, but that's right now we're just calling it that, because I just want people's stories, and it's anonymous. They can send them to me, but I want people, first of all, to understand, and this is something that sounds like you've done, to understand that they're not alone, that other people are struggling with this. And secondly, as a researcher, to try to understand what we as music teachers and parents can do to try to prevent this, because most of the people that you read about this, it happened in childhood. And we should not be telling children they can't sing, right? That just shouldn't happen. So I'd like to, that's one of the ways that I want to try to get the word out there.
That's an interesting point, what you're saying there, because I'm getting a lot of emails from people who are, like, we have, for example, a crash course, like a 2-week crash course where people learn to sing online for free with just the basics. It's basically just breathing, it's support, and just resonance, and basically very easy. And I get a lot of stories. I always ask them, so why are you taking that course, or where you're coming from? And a lot of the people really tell, that's also how they come to us. They search the term, can I learn to sing? That is really a big question. And a lot of them are saying, who have that question, is like, as you said, I've been told I can't sing. And it's definitely, I mean, if you get this website up, I can always send those people a link so that they can put it out there. And because it is very interesting. Like, we've done a survey between guys, or men and women usually think they can sing, or they want to learn to sing, that they get appreciation. Men usually want to learn to sing because they are a guitar player or a pianist, and they just want to do it with it. And so that's the interesting part in it. But a lot of really emotions are involved in that topic, and I strongly, my strong opinion is also that the casting shows, which are very big in these days, plus in combination with the education that you have to go to college to become a singer, these two things are playing a big part in that people generally say you're either born with singing or you're not. And they don't see that kids, they practice it. Like my 3 kids at home, they sing all the time. Sure. All the time. And so
these people who it's the same, it was the same with me. And so then when you see people who are 5 years old who can sing, you think, oh, well, that's a natural talent. It's like, well, no, they've been singing at home since they were babies, and this is the real challenge that we have. And the other challenge you have is, I mean, when somebody's practicing the guitar or practicing the trumpet, right? But people practice singing all the time in really subtle, quiet ways, in their car, in the shower. So we might look at somebody who it doesn't look like they practice, but they're a really good singer. It's like, well, how did they become a really good singer? Because they don't practice, so it must be talent. Because we don't see all the times that they sing and all the ways that they sing. I mean, certainly people have different voices, right, and different challenges with their voice. We know that. I'm not suggesting that I'm going to turn into Pavarotti tomorrow or anything like that, but it is interesting if piano or violin is something you can learn to play, but singer is something you either are or aren't. That's a damaging distinction, I think, from an educational standpoint. So I agree with you. I think we need to try to help people see that that's not the way it is.
But what do you think does it mean to sing well? Are there any kind of objective assessments we can put on that term? You can sing well now, not just you can hold a tune, but you can sing well.
Yeah, no, that's a very, and that is beyond right now the scope of what I'm doing. I am purely interested in helping people to assess and track their progress in terms of how accurate they are, how well they can translate, because there's a whole, the issue in which that article you referenced was published also had a couple of articles on theories of the audio motor system in the brain. In other words, what is the neurological process of translating what you hear into vocal reproduction, which is really hard to get at because everything's internal. So no, I'm right now just interested in what I would consider one of the foundational aspects of good singing, which is to be accurate. Now, there are famous singers who aren't necessarily super accurate, right? Because there's also style, and character in voices and things like that. So when you say what is a good singer, I think the challenge there is that's very contextual. It really depends on the style. Somebody who's seen as a good singer in jazz would be seen as a horrible singer in opera. Somebody who's, Mick Jagger of the Rolling Stones is certainly seen as a good singer, but if he were even singing certain kinds of certainly classical music, but even certain kinds of folk music, he might not be seen as particularly good. His diction isn't good, whatever. But he's the Rolling Stones. So it's very, very contextual. I think that the piece, in addition to accuracy, I think the piece that can separate people sometimes is how carefully they listen to what they're trying to sing in terms of style. One of the things I notice with teenagers working with choir students is that when many of them go to sing a popular song, something that they've heard on the radio, it's clear that they haven't really listened for style, right? And the same, I mean, I always encourage people who are studying classical voice. I'm like, well, how many people have you listened to sing this song? Have you gone, and now we have such resources online. Have you heard, if a woman is singing a Baroque aria, have you listened to Ellie Ameling sing it? Have you listened to somebody famous sing this? And more often than not, they say, no, I haven't really. I've just been learning the notes. It's like, no, when you talk to somebody who does jazz music or rock music, the first thing that they'll talk about is who they've listened to, who they're influenced by, all this sort of, it's all about listening and style. So I think that's not part of my research, but as a teacher, something that I noticed that I think is a big part of becoming a, quote, good singer, is really understanding style and adapting your voice to different styles.
Yeah.
But accuracy, to me, like you said, accuracy is one of those foundational things that if you don't have that, people tend to dismiss you a little bit.
How can people actually adults improve their accuracy?
Well, I think the things that you're talking about, just basic skills like breathing and resonance and support can certainly help. The problem that we have, this is where the research is not caught up yet. There are some people who I think their difficulties in singing come from a lack of control of the vocal mechanism, right? So for those people, the kinds of exercises you're talking about, breathing, technique, resonance, are all good. There may be other people, however, who the neurological connections between their temporal lobe and their frontal lobe, the areas that control their hearing and the areas that control their motor system, may be weaker. And so it's not that they lack vocal control. There's a translation problem neurologically. And researchers like Sean Hutchins and Psyche Louis and Peter Fordresher are trying to identify where some of those connections can be strengthened and what kinds of activities will strengthen. We don't really know yet. I'm particularly interested, I'm giving away one of my future research studies, but I'm particularly interested in the use of visual feedback. I think that because if there is an audio motor problem, using another modality like vision can really help. Now, some people have done this, but not very extensively and not devoted solely to accuracy. For instance, voice teachers use visual feedback to look at your resonance, right? Your formant, that sort of thing. You probably heard of sing and see and that sort of thing. Yeah. And I think that's good. But I'm really interested in visual feedback as a way to manipulate the up and down of your voice, to get better at manipulating the up and down. So that's a study we're hoping to do this fall.
There are some apps out there.
Yes, there are.
And I recommend some of them.
I think. Is that one of the ones you recommend?
Which one?
Sing Sharp, I think it's called.
I'm not exactly sure. I've got it on my, I put it down, but that's good to know. But I totally agree with that. I think visualization, when there's a lack of hearing, can help. That's going to be a very interesting study. Yeah, that's great.
So we'll see if we can get some systematic results there. But again, if we don't know what's causing an individual's problem, then it could be that the solution works for some people but not for others, and so we're really at the beginning stages in what I would call remediation, trying to help people who have difficulties. But that's what I hope over the next 10 years to really get better at. I do think one of the biggest things is practice, singing with a recording, singing with groups, singing with other people. I think probably singing with other people is better than singing with a recording in some ways. That people respond better to that. But I think that's a biggie. And it's one of the hardest things because people who feel they don't sing well, that's the last thing they want to do. is sing in a group. But I think if we can set up, like these choirs we've been talking about, if we can set up a place where it's okay, I really think that's helpful.
Would you mind telling me some about, basically that study or that tool that you're developing, that online tool, and how
We
that is
did
going?
a couple of years ago, we did a symposium in Seattle, Washington, where we got together people from really around the world who were interested in studying singing from an educational standpoint, a psychological standpoint, and a neuroscience standpoint. And this was Peter Fordresher and I sort of hosted this, and one of the things we asked everybody is, well, what would you want from a measure of singing accuracy that you could use in your studies? And so we actually were able, as a group, to come up with a set of core tasks that we would like everybody, we'd like to test people on. So this turned into the Seattle Singing Accuracy Protocol, or SSAP, which is almost ready to launch online. And what this will allow people to do is to go to the website, log in as just a regular, it just says I'm just a member of the general public, and actually be able to test how accurately they sing in response to different tasks. So the tasks are, number one is matching a single pitch with your voice that's given to you by voice. So the first thing we have everybody do is what we call warm-up tasks. So sing a familiar song, sing a pitch on do that's comfortable, like do, and just sing it for a minute, okay? And from those warm-up tasks, the program determines your comfortable range. And so then the rest of the test is given to you in your comfortable range. And it's only the range of a fifth. We're not trying to push people's registers here, right? We're just looking at the easiest thing they could do. So the first task, you hear somebody in your register sing do, and then you sing back do, and you do that 10 times, okay? For the next task, you hear a piano play that pitch in your register, because some people can match a voice but can't match another instrument. And so we're interested in separating out, helping people see where their problem is. And so there are 10 of those. So you match just a single pitch piano. So this goes by really quickly. And then for the next task, you hear somebody sing a 4-pitch pattern. So do, 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 or something like that. And actually, I think it's more something like do, 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 do. Some of them go up, some of them go down. And you sing it back. Okay? So that's all of what we call the 3 matching tasks, where you match you echo back what you heard. Then in the next part, you choose from a list of songs one that's familiar to you. So there's Happy Birthday, Twinkle Twinkle Little Star, Frere Jacques, Are You Sleeping, Jingle Bells, Christmas Song, that sort of thing. Pick one song. And the first time through, you just sing it as best you can on the words. And we actually put the words up for you for whatever song you've chosen. Mary Had a Little Lamb's another. And really, when we talked to these international researchers, they said, well, most people actually know these songs, even though they're in English. They're like, most people know these songs. So that's what we used. So then once they've sung it on text, they're asked to sing it again, this time just on the syllable do. So do, 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 and so forth, going on like that. Once they're done with that, the next part, this goes pretty quickly, is ask them to listen to 2 pitches and judge whether the second pitch is higher or lower than the first pitch. So this is the perception part. And it goes on and on until you can get to, like, my threshold is something like 1.6 cents. It's very, very small. So it'll get very, very precise. It's what we call a staircase procedure, so it adapts to your performance. But really, we're only interested in making sure people can hear big differences in pitch. So there's that test. And then after that, a short survey, just like a one-page survey, or you click through on your musical background, like how much training have you had? Do you study an instrument? Do you sing in choir? Whatever, what do you do? And then people get the results. And so what you get as your results are what percentage of single pitches did you sing correctly? What percentage of single pitch with piano? What percentage of pattern pitches did you sing correctly? And then for your song singing, this is the one that we're still working to try to make it better, but basically what it does is it matches what you did to a sort of a model of the song and says you sang with, about 75% accuracy or 85% accuracy. It says right on the screen, but I'm not as happy with that one. I don't think because I know when I've sung it accurately, and it's not always consistent. Most of the time it gets me pretty close to 100%, but every once in a while it doesn't, and I didn't really change anything. So we're still working on that. That's the hardest thing to get a program to do, is to take when somebody sings a song at any pitch that they want, it's really hard to then analyze what they do. And you get a score for your perception test. What was your threshold? And then that's it. And people can take it. We have a thing in there that says, are you part of the general public or part of a study? And you say general public, and then it says, have you taken this before? And so if you want to do it more than once, you just say, yes, I've taken this before. And you can do it. And so the idea is somebody who is taking your singing class could take it at the beginning, and then in 2 weeks or 3 weeks, they could take it again and see if they're doing any better.
Okay.
Now, we know that improvement takes usually longer than that. So people shouldn't get discouraged if they don't get a lot better after the first time. But as far as we're concerned, people can take this as many times as they want and track their score. What we want them to do, though, is say that they're taking it again. Because what we're doing is people's first attempts are going into a separate database. So we're trying to get a sense of, well, if you're 30 years old and you've studied music for 10 years versus if you're 12 years old and you've never studied music versus whatever, we're putting together sort of a database of how accurate is the general population.
So this is part of the study, and the people should... It's kind
of a database that we can use to begin to say, I mean, one of the things we don't know, people always talk about being a good singer, like you said, or being accurate. We don't really know how common it is for people to sing accurately or inaccurately. We really don't have that. We don't have a lot of data. Particularly, we don't have a lot of data from people who aren't in music. So that's why this is sort of I see it as sort of a first step in gathering some of that information.
Cool.
And it says that you have to click on I agree, that it's anonymous, like we don't take your name or anything, so we can't know who you are, but we do keep your recording.
That's good. I think it's for a lot of people it's very helpful to know that it's anonymous.
It's totally anonymous. Yeah, there's no way we could track you. In fact, we don't even we throw away your IP address. You know how every computer program every online thing takes your IP. We get rid of it because we don't want to be able to trace it back.
Thank you so much. It's very important what you're doing, this research, and giving it backup, really. I mean, some grounded leveling, because I mean, as you see, a lot of especially articles need to get out there so that the general public will read it and think about it and change their mind, because most of the books, I mean, they are written from a classical standpoint. And so, as you mentioned before, just popular music styles are inferior, and still in the research, it's still inferior. So that's very important what you're doing.
Yeah. I think this isn't about being prepared to sing a certain style, right? This is about people being able to participate as singers in the music that they love, and I don't want anyone to be kept away from that.